we got Debbie Reynolds in, and Debbie unfortunately didn't sell tickets, but she was good in the show, but she knew how to work backstage and how to work the press and people around her in the most beautiful way, like the MGM studio training, ingratiate yourself, you know, be good to the little people, they'll be good to you. We introduced her down to the basement at the Palace to the company and the crew. She asked me for a backstage tour of the theater, and we took her around. She said, I want to see the crew's men's room. And I did, and it was the usual crappy, dingy, beat-up place that you would expect it would be in an old building like that. And she said, can you get this painted by 6 o'clock? Can you make this pristine, pure white? And I said, well, yeah. I mean, given all of Bacall's demands, you know, $200 to paint a bathroom, yeah, I think we can handle this for our new star. And she was adorable about it. And so we brought her downstairs at an hour before curtain to introduce her. She wasn't going on yet. She was just starting rehearsals. And she recognized 2 of the crew on our crew who had been on Irene 16 years prior, and she named their children. Oh my gosh. You know, Ellen must be out of college by now, right? Good stuff like that, which maybe her assistant had researched that afternoon, but who cares? She went there and she did that, and it was lovely. And then she said, now, guys and the crew, I don't know if you've seen the men's room yet, but I just want you to know, actually what I want is, every time you take a dump, I want you to think of sweet little Debbie. Now, how do you not love that kind of balls? Ragtime is a funny thing. When Garth Drabinsky, the producer of it up in Canada, when he went bankrupt, my company stepped in and bought the assets. So I inherited Ragtime. I became, after the fact, the producer of it, the continuation of its life. And so I produced a U.S. tour of it and nurtured its last year on Broadway. And I kind of adopted it as my show, though I had nothing to do with its creation. It was just, yeah, I'm the producer of Ragtime. And I adored that show. I stood in back so many times. Or sat in back because we didn't sell a lot of tickets in that giant house in the final year. But I adore that show, and I think it was pretty much perfect in every respect. Book and score and direction. And budget. When I finally stood up with the company to say we were closing, I said, we've looked at this, we've negotiated with equity. There are 60 of you on stage. There are 38 of you in the pit. We should fire half of you and keep going. But we have married into the reality that this is what it is. And to present half of the show, we're going to fire you all and close this thing. And I got cheers and applause for saying it.
Wow.
To the company that was being fired. Because they got it as well. They knew they were part of something magnificent, foolishly huge, but beautiful. So anyways, I have a real soft spot for that show. Tommy didn't make the most money of the shows I put on, but it got the most prestige for my company. So that was my biggest success. One of the Pace executives on the concert side made friends with Pete Townsend during one of the Who tours and said, so what do you want to do next? What do you want to have happen? And Pete said, I'd love to put Tommy on Broadway somehow. And Louis said, I got a guy for you to talk to. My company has a Broadway division. Let's do this. When I was told I had the meeting, I turned to Billy and I said, okay, who's Pete Townsend? And as it happened, Pete adored me because I wasn't intimidated. I was like, cool. Okay, so you've written this magnificent set of songs. There's a story already. We just need to take this forward. And he was all ears. He was a total pussycat. And I made one audacious promise. I said, let us do a regional tryout production. We'll spend $1 million on it. And if you don't like it, take the rights back. Scary thing. Frightened my bosses rather a lot. But it paid off because that gave him complete comfort. Michael David, the other producer partner on this, brought in Des McAnuff. And Des then took the entire creative line with Pete and developed the book and developed what the show became. And I was really proud of the show. I was sorry I didn't have anything to do with it creatively, but I felt great that I got Pete to the table and made him happy and feeling safe.
Because so many people have been after those rights for so many years.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And then he loved what he saw in La Jolla, and so it was easy to come to Broadway.
Good job.
But, yeah. The owner of the company, Alan Becker, had seen a regional production in Houston at the Alley, of Jekyll and Hyde, and loved it. And he called me and said, "Okay, I found this musical. You're bringing it to Broadway. Get down here." So I came down, met with them, and 2 years later we had done a national tour and then got it to Broadway, where it ran 4.5 years, 5 years. So it was.
Sure did.
It had the most annoying commercial in the history of Broadway advertising. My friends still haven't forgiven me for waking up every morning and turning on the news and hearing, "This is the moment." But it sold tickets. And there was a rabid, hardcore set of fans who adored that show. The Jeckies, we called them. So it was very successful. Hard to make profit on because it was in a theater too small for the size of the production that we put on. I did a bit too much on stage relative to how many seats we had. So I made a bit of a producing error there, which took some years to recover from. But
it recouped.
It did.
So,
it did.
you know, 17 years later.